Alrighty, back in business. We got the A League to go through. We got some EPL, and we got some very juicy Champions League fixtures to cover. Play that music, big boy. Wow, wow, wow. So
Woozle woozle.
let's get right into the A League because we got some teeth to pull.
Some
Right?
teeth to pull.
Wanderers, terrible stuff. Huh? Awful
Hey,
display against Newcastle, right? But just to round up their week really quickly, for anyone that may have missed it, for anyone who is of sound mind and does not support the Wanderers, uh, you got in the last week they conceded probably the goal of the year in the Scorpion
yep.
kick, right? Probably the goal of the year, not just for the A League, but probably I would say for at least the JPAC area, right?
The J-Pack area.
For very least,
Definitely in
if
consideration for the pushcast, or probably in the
oh
nominees. That'll
yeah,
be
it'll
the
it'll
winner,
pop
but
up. Well, it depends, right? Depends what happens the rest of the year. But for now, at
mm,
least, it's in the running. Um,
it's on the
then they
table.
lose. They lose 1-0 to the Jets. Which look, I'm not trying to trash the Jets or anything like that. But the reality is that they've just not been particularly good.
Yeah,
For this
yeah.
season or for some time, really. So to lose 1-0 there, not very good, especially when you're trying to find some form. And also, we have our CEO step down. So turbulent to say the least for the Wanderers. But you'd probably say that, on the graph, that the CEO leaving is probably the first upwards trajectory, moment we've had all season,
Yep,
sadly. So
yep.
it depends who they put in there, because like maybe we'll get I don't know, maybe they just go and make the worst decision out there, put like Scrooge McDuck in as fucking CEO or some dumb shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like they could still make
Scrooge McDuck.
same thing as the coaching decision, right? Is like, we lost Robbo and everyone was like, yes, cool, maybe some progression here, and then we bring in Mark Rudin.
Lateral.
Yeah,
Mark
exactly. Where
Ruben,
it's
lateral
like,
maneuver.
we're in a club in turmoil. You need someone in there to really, put an arm around the boys and get them chugging along together. And you bring in someone who's known for creating a toxic culture. It's a bit strange. So
Probably,
now you get
probably not the best move. Yeah.
probably not the best room. So now you get rid of the CEO. The in a vacuum, this alone isn't a great move just yet. It depends on who they bring in to replace him. You know what I mean? If
Mm.
it's some sort of messiah type figure, then it's going to be looked at back on as some a good move. If you bring in some sort of, like you said, a lateral move again, then we're neither coming nor going. I think.
Mm. Mm. My
Um,
my thing is as well. You know, I get the CEOs. The heads have to roll after such a dismal. I guess a season and a half because it wasn't
seasons,
always.
seasons.
Yeah. Well, overall, I think the seasons were poor prior, but
Yeah,
especially in the last, I say, season and a half, it pretty much hit rock bottom.
the
For
worst.
me,
Yeah.
it's um it's a question of whether he was the problem, or is there still decay ongoing, is there still gangrene attached to other positions of the club. Rudan, I can't remember how long. I don't know if he's just if he's been appointed any longer any longer past this season, um, or anything like that. I can't remember off the top now, but it's a matter of whether they can start fresh, because I don't think you can start fresh with Rudin. I think he wears out his welcome well, as wears out his welcomes wherever he goes.
Yep.
Um, we've seen it at two different clubs, and he's also a guy that's always ready to move on to a bigger and better project, and use things as stepping stones where necessary. So it's not really a guy you want to, I guess, not rebuild with, but I guess uh, go back to the glory days of having such a strong foundation and strong
Mm.
culture in the team and in the clubs. So that's a problem. But yeah, just more so I'm concerned that, yeah, okay, CEO's head rolls, he leaves at the end of the season. Yes, the appointment's important, but was he the guy? Is he just a fall guy? Has he just said, look, as a CEO, I still have no sway. There's too many
Yep.
power working factions in the club at the moment, or there's just people in key positions that have more power and more say than I do, that are still at the club, and I can't fight this anymore. So we'll see how it works out. I mean, I can't wait for the season to end. It's been an
Yeah.
absolute downhill ride with it. Just there's not a single glimmer of hope. I feel since the start of the season. We opened the season with, I believe it was the derby. That was
Yeah, nil
pretty
or draw.
lackluster,
Yeah.
especially for a derby. And then ever since then, there's been minor upticks, like your 3-3 against City.
Hmm.
But then they've been swiftly followed by a return and even probably fall further down in form. I guess like Robbo's last game against Brisbane,
Mm.
that's a big one. And then again, Mark Ruden's game against Western United, against City, again on
Against
this
Newcastle.
against Newcastle. It's
Yeah, yeah.
there's what is the point of even following the club if the club are completely in shambles? Like, well, how can you invest in something? Imagine
Mm.
invest. Well, I mean, it's pretty easy considering the NFTs out there, but imagine investing something that's a complete fraud and a complete scam, and a facade.
I'm curious to see like what the like you said what the moves are after this guy's head's
Mm,
rolled, right?
mm,
Like because I'm fairly certain it's pretty commonplace for in football, the biggest name that's been let go, so to speak, is the one that gets the headline. In this case,
mm,
the CEO. How many of of his people that he had spread out through the organization? How many are going with him?
mm,
And does that stop the rot, so to speak? Does that actually mean that we're taking a step in another direction, or
mm,
is it more of like you said a little bit earlier? Is he just the fall guy? Is he just
mm.
the what's it called, the something sheep?
There's something. The sheep sent to slaughter, or what?
No, what's
Ask
the
me on this one, buddy.
damn. Anyways, either way, he's the guy being teed up to take the fall,
Mm,
right? He's the
mm,
patsy, so to speak.
mm,
So is that going to be the case, or is it a genuine move into a different direction with a different board, with new leadership? Is that what's happening, or is it just like a figurehead, being replaced?
mm,
That's what I'm curious about because we've banged on about how coaches have rotated in and out. There's been an overhaul in terms of personnel several times. You know what I mean? Like this
mhm,
season in particular, you've got a completely, no, I wouldn't say completely different crop of players, but at least a decent enough chunk have changed. A rotation in the roster where in which you'd expect a difference in the product being put together. Like it's strange to me how we're roughly as good as we were last year, but like there's like 6 or 7 different starters.
mhm,
It's almost kind of like impossible that we play so alike to last year with almost a completely different lineup. Like that kind of goes to show you, is this the sort of philosophy they're just betting in? Is it just shit? Is
mm,
like the way systematically the way this club plays football? Is it just shit? Is that the problem? You know what I mean? Like, because how can it be that across 2 different coaches, 2 different lineups, they're playing equally bad in the same way? Do you know what I
mm,
mean? Like it's kind of strange that that's kind of come out that way. That's resulted. You think just naturally through rotation of squad and coaches, you would just get a different result, even if
mm,
they were just as bad as each other. Like they were both losing, but just in different ways. At least you'd be like, okay, that makes sense. You've got different players, different coach. We play differently. Not at
mhm.
all. We're playing
No,
just the same as last year, just as
mm,
badly with
mm.
no real
Even
sign of,
worse, even.
yeah, worse. You could say
Because at
worse
least
because
last season you had glimmers of hope. You had
yeah.
ebbs and flows. You had great wins followed by strange losses, like the game against Victory
Hmm.
last season when they were rock bottom, when we
Yeah, but in the
conceded
game, in
five.
the games they won, and in the
Mm.
games they lost, they won for the same reasons and lost for
And
the
then
same
that's what I'm
reasons,
saying.
as the same as this year. Like it's still the same. How is the formula the same when all the variables have changed? Coach is different, lineups different. Like it's just strange to me that there's been no real momentum in any direction.
Mm.
But look, we'll see what happens with the rotation. Back to the game though, I just wanted to point out, never really
Mhm.
looked like getting back into the game against Newcastle. Uh, Newcastle with a super rare clean sheet. I think they've only had like 2 or 3 this season,
Mm.
if that.
Mm.
So we give him that, which is terrific. Lots of rotation in the Wanderer squad, which has been the case since like round three, I think.
Oh,
With
probably, yeah.
injuries and so on, the
Mm,
coaching change, all that sort of stuff. So I get it. There's the rotation in the squad, but it's more the lack of intent to try anything new. You know what I mean?
mm,
Like if you put out um, a rotated squad with players that aren't usually in the starting lineup, you could expect to fall away from your average. Like fall away from the tactic or system you've been playing up until that point. But
mm,
considering the fact that we've never really had any consistent game plan the whole season, rotation shouldn't matter because you aren't benefiting from continuity anyways. So why does it matter who's out there?
mm,
So
mm,
they're all
mm.
professional footballers. The coach is a professional coach, so they should still be able to put together some semblance of a good product out there, and they just can't put it together at all.
Nope.
Um, let's get to the other A League game that happened through the week: Western United versus Sydney.
Top of the
Uh,
table. Top of the
top,
table.
top of the table clash. Had to bring this up because of the state of both teams at the moment in the upper echelons of the league. Choppy game, really choppy game, which is sort of expected, I suppose. Two teams are pretty good, canceling each other out. Um, what I wanted to say though is that to finally break the deadlock and to win the game actually 1-0 for Western United, a cheeky little back roll from what's the tall strikers? He's like number
Uh,
99,
the
man bun.
Serbian fella.
Yeah,
Uh, let's have a look at the
have a
lineup.
gaze. Got a
Yeah.
brilliant little back heel
I
roll
think
from
it's
him.
Pirjovic. I think it's Pirjovic. I might be getting it
Have a
wrong.
gaze. Um, Cheeky
Pirjovic.
little back roll from him, and then into a fake shot from Lustica, and then he places it. I don't know if he meant to, but he placed it looking into the top bins, just
Prijovic,
like the
sorry.
Prijovic.
Pri. Prijovic.
Just the kind of goal that you're used to seeing from the old days of MSN with the Suarez and Messi combining in the box. Like it was very high quality football, just in a microcosm.
Mm,
In isolation, wasn't happening too much in that game. To be honest, it was very rough and tumble. But yeah, nice to see like when it's a 1-0 goal and it's the goal that wins the game. It's nice to
mhm,
see when it's a well put together goal. You hate when it's
mhm,
like these two teams rough it out for 90 minutes and one team wins 1-0 off a deflected shot or some garbage
mm,
like that.
mm. At
So
least a little bit of quality separated them.
yeah, exactly that, right? Which is kind of what coaches try to tell these sort of center forward type strikers when they're in that hold up position. Is like you just make one good decision one time and it's half a goal, and that's kind of what
Mm,
this was. Lovely little back heel from that fella, who actually I want to go out on a limb from the games I've seen him play. He's probably the most consistent like center forward in the league at this point in time. Like he's not a
mm,
big goal scorer or anything like
mm,
that. He's like a little baby Giroud. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
he's good at hold up play. He's terrific as an option for Diamante because Diamante can ping across to him and get it on his head like 9 times out of 10. So he's the perfect combination with their marquee player, which is terrific.
mhm,
His hold up play is great. He's always in the right spot. He doesn't make those dumb decisions that Lukaku, for example, has been making to no end,
line him
where
up, Chelsea.
he gets the ball, he holds it up, and he goes, I'm going to hold this for 5 seconds. I don't
Mm,
care who's open. I just want the ball for an extended period of time, and then I'll play it off. Like he's always set in his mind he's going to play it off, but he for some reason wants to put this buffer in where he wants to touch the ball an extra 3-4 times, dick around with it a bit, and then lay it off.
mm,
Lukaku does it all the time, passes up options, and I think it's a confidence thing. And this is a bit of tangent, but I think it's a confidence thing. I think he wants to show, like, hey, I'm doing my best here. I've got control of the ball. I'm doing a little something. He's not trying to seem like the ball's scaring him. Like, oh, I get it, and I get rid of it. Whereas
mm,
sometimes that's the best thing to do as the hold up player.
mm,
Is you get it, you draw that attention, and before the defense has a chance to set itself, in this exact case with Prijovic, you lay it off, and the guy walks in essentially. So
yeah.
terrific
Mm,
hold up play from
mm,
him. Very
mm,
rarely seen in the A League, so good to
mm.
call it out when it happens.
Yeah, yeah, and he also set up the scorpion kick. Lovely little outside of the foot cross,
Yeah,
inch perfect
yeah,
as well
yep.
for the goal as well. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's good. I just think obviously he needs more goals because he's a striker. So if you're not, you gotta put your part in as that's your
Hmm.
primary objective. But all things considered, I mean, even when he's come off the bench, not necessarily started every game, but when he comes off the
Hmm.
bench, he seems to show a bit of enthusiasm and then kind of brings a different dynamic to the game because
I just
he's He's good
Mhm.
at chasing the down, good at chasing the ball down as well.
Mm. So just like there's not really like who's in that mold of like a center forward hold up type number nine. There's like Bobo. Who else?
Bobo's
There's
off the minute, so it's hard to
yeah, but like who else is in the league right now that can do that role? There's very
not
few guys.
many, not many. It's a
There's
dying
very
art. I'll
few.
give you that.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
yeah,
It's a
and
dying
he's
art because it's a lot of in behind through balls. Like if you look
yeah,
at Bulls for example, they play
yeah,
Lockie Rose up
yeah,
front.
yeah. It's a lot of through
And
balls in behind.
he's a small boy. He's a winger naturally. A lot of the time was out wide.
Well,
Now he's playing up top.
a lot of Aussie teams play pressing, so the ball over the top
Mm,
is sort of the way to go. But I just think it's they've done a good job in finding this guy because he kind of gives everything that Diamante looks for in a striker. His positioning is good. He's good in the air. He's creative enough to receive the ball into feet and give it back into play. So I don't know, gushing a bit about him, but it's because there's really no one of this guy's mold in the
mm.
league. And I feel
Only
like
one,
anytime
the
a
only
guy
one
like
I
this
could think
shows
of is
up, he's
Patrick
just
Wood.
lazy. Patrick Wood, yeah,
Yeah,
I
but he's not as
suppose.
tall. He's 178. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost six, a bit
He
under 6
plays he plays the same role, I suppose, on the
Yeah, and
field.
he's
But
big
I
and
just
like for I wouldn't have thought he was 178. I thought it was like he literally plays above his size, but he seems to
yeah.
be a bit of a I guess a bulldozer kind of hold the ball up type of fella,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
tap in merchant if you want as well. So I don't know, but you're right. It is few and far between. I think probably Bobo in his heyday and
Hmm.
Prijovic is probably the
But
best
the
two
thing
at
is the thing as well is like normally when guys of this elk show up in the league, they're normally just shit. Like
it.
they market them as like, oh, he's slow, but oh, he's a good hold up and he can turn and shoot,
Rudy
but you just
Gusted,
never.
ring a bell?
Yeah, he just yeah, exactly. They just never do it. You know what I mean? The league physicality is too much for them, or it's just they're a fraud, right? Whereas this guy, he's big, he's tall, that's what he sells himself as is the hold up number nine, and he actually executes it, which is just rare to see in the league.
Mhm.
Uh, all right, let's jump into the EPL real quick here.
Let's have a
Um,
quick squeeze.
we have three fixtures I kind of want to go through that were
Mm.
a little on they're grabbing the headlines. The first is Liverpool absolutely steamrolling Leeds.
Wasn't even
Now,
close.
there's literally no point in breaking down the game. It's just an absolute bollocking that they copped. That's it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like each goal, I think all six of their goals were as a result of like how much Liverpool was dominating the game. It wasn't like an individual piece of skill from Salah or some terrific finishing from Bobby Firmino or a running behind from Mane. It was none of that. It was like those goals happened, but they happened because Liverpool were absolutely running riot over Leeds. So yeah, what do you reckon? What did you think of that one?
Man, Leeds have fallen so far off where they were last year.
Mm,
Injuries have probably played a huge part. I know Bamford, Phillips, even Koch and
yep.
Llorente have missed large chunks of the season, and
And
all at the same time as well.
the captain centre back too. What's his name?
The captain centre back Koch, Llorente,
Cooper.
Cooper, yeah, sorry, that was one. I was going
Yeah.
to call him Webster, but I think that's a backup. But yeah, Cooper. They've all missed either time together on the physio table, or they've all had patches where they've had to come back, and then the teams in tatters because they've got placeholders everywhere. Paul Rafinha's really doing it as a one man band this season. Even Rodrigo um, has also missed some time. So it's been a difficult season, but that's not to say that the injuries are to blame. I think the team has lost its edge. I think they've I think they've failed to add and capitalize on what they built last year. I don't think their acquisitions were. Uh, I mean, Junior Furpo, okay, yeah, your sore spot. He had a sore spot at left back, but was he the best signing available? Could you have done something a little cheaper, someone a little
Yeah.
better, really?
Yeah.
Um,
Daniel
Dan
James.
James
Yeah.
was a big overpay. I mean, I get where he fits in, but I mean that's probably your strongest position out wide. You've got
Yeah. Yeah.
Rafinha, Paveda,
Yeah.
Jack
Jack
Harrison.
Harrison. Yeah.
Somerville as well, if you want to put him on. I mean,
Yeah.
probably
That
not
rotation
the
there.
place you want to spend 23 million pounds to bolster. Really, you could have
Mm.
spent less and have him, a youth prodigy or something like that, come through. So whatever, that's up to them. I just think they failed to build and capitalize on just what they built last year. I think they needed a deeper squad, which has kind of come to fruition this season, considering all the injuries. But I think it's. I don't want to say Bielsa's lost his touch or lost the team. I don't think that's the case. I just think now that you know they've really been exposed as a one dimensional 111 team. Where they if the plan doesn't follow through and they don't have the players to that are the best at executing that plan, it's really difficult for them to even muster up a chance at winning because again I think they've had the most youth players played, like some of the youngest players ever, and some of the youngest sides in the PL this season due to COVID and obviously injuries again. But you just like you've got a. I'm not saying you've got a mega rich owner, but a guy that's willing to invest. I don't know who's making
Mm.
those decisions, but I think they need to take a long look at the squad and really bolster some places. Like centre back definitely needs some bolstering. Yes, you have Llorente. Yes, you have Cock, but those guys, even when they start, they're not really, you know, game changers, and they're oft injured. So that's not a good thing. Struik, I think
Yeah.
he's in prem level
That
centre
whole middle area of the field, the center mid
midfield.
position
Someone
and
goddamn
center back position.
someone help Phillips. Phillips is
Yeah.
absolutely swimming out there by himself with no support, and when he's injured again, there's another area that needs covering. So I think overall the squad depth is really, really, really thin, and that's what
And
kills them.
the quality of player. Like
And the
even if you
quality,
were
yeah.
like go to their like if they had full strength starting lineup,
Mm.
there's still like 5 players or 6 players in there that aren't really Premier League quality. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Klitsch. I always think of Klitsch. Like
Yeah,
he's always.
Klitsch just yeah,
I
he's
admire the effort, but the talent is just not there.
no, no, not at all. And even when you look at players like Stuart Dallas, you know what
Mm.
I mean, or Luke Ayling, they're good players. I'm not saying that they're not Premier League quality players, but they're just like they're giving you just enough to they're barely fitting that criteria. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Their heads hit
So
the
if
ceiling.
so if that's the squad that they have when they're at full strength, right? Then like what is it going to look like when they're decimated like they are at the moment?
Mm.
You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Exactly.
And the
Exactly.
kind of if they were Burnley, for example, right, where the kind of football you play is a little bit easier to run next man up. You know what I mean? Like, okay, new center back, you just got to stand next to the goalkeeper. You know, all right, left back, right back, you never make an overlapping run. You just chill next to the center backs, right?
Mm.
You two pivots, you just stay in front of the center back pairing and make a wall. Like that is much easier to teach to any player that shuffles in and out of the lineup, right? Than Leeds' system.
Mm.
Leeds' system literally has, all that half spacing bullshit they have to do, the way in which they press, all that. You can't just rotate anyone in there. You know what I mean?
Mm. Mm.
So I don't know. I feel like it's I think it's entirely out of Bielsa's hands when you've got championship quality players, if that, fielded for 90% of your games. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, especially if you want him playing the way he plays. It's you got to give both things. Like, okay, if you want to have this madman out there as your coach, having this pressing rock star football, you need to have the players of that ilk. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I'm not saying you need to have 11 like Liverpool, where it's every player could be on the UEFA's best 11. I'm just saying they need to be the kind of player that sensibly you could expect they can play that sort of football. It doesn't
Mm.
seem like too big of a reach to me. I just think they've
No.
made really stupid acquisitions that probably took up 2 or 3 players worth of budget. Like you look at Junior Firpo, you look at Dan James. They probably could have got a handful of players for that same amount of money that would have helped their squad a lot more this
Mm.
season.
Mm. At least some
Um,
depth.
yeah, exactly. So let's go through the other two Premier League games real quick here.
Mm-hmm.
Burnley beating Spurs 1-0.
Mm-hmm. 4 losses out of their last 5. The last win for Spurs was against City. Again, contentious game in that one, but for Burnley, you know what they're gonna give you. So it's funny to see when Spurs get beat at their own game, when they just get
Mm,
shut when teams shell up and they can't do anything about it. Conte said one of the funniest things I've heard all season. Where he's already looking at the door, and do they have to talk about his position and what's going to happen? I think it's the most Spurs thing you can do, really. You instead of signing the guy at the start of the season, you sign Nuno. You don't back Nuno. You let he's a couple of games slide. The team looks poor.
Mhm.
You sack him. You go out. You bring Conte. The club's in the squad's in shambles. Sorry, you've got Kane wanting to leave, and the bit part players, on large salary and on belly, and then you know you don't really back him and get him exactly what you want, or you wait till the last day to get Kulusevski and I'm blanking on the name now.
Bentancur.
Bentancur. Yeah, you wait till the last day. So then those are the only three deals you get done, and now the guy's looking out the window going, "Fuck, I shouldn't have done this."
Yeah,
After
yeah,
4 losses in five, and that's look, the team is so unpredictable. It's at least with Nuno, it was predictably shit. It's going to be turgid
yeah.
football. It was going to be ugly. Where's how can I don't know if it's the squad. I don't know if it's Conte. I don't even know if it's a gelling thing. They've had a while now to get accustomed to each other, but it just
Mm.
seems like the squad can't string two results together. You literally Jekyll and Hyde between every. You don't know which Spurs is going to show up. Is it the lovely free flowing team that we saw against City where they were exposing the space, or is it the team that loses 2-0 to Wolves with some calamitous errors from their keeper captain? It's I think the squad needs definitely a big overhaul. Whether they'll allow Conte to do that and open up the purse strings, that's for them to decide. I think really like the likes of Lloris, like if you look at their centre backs again, back to the centre back position, Dyer, Sanchez, they're not. They've been really poor all season. Ben Davies hasn't
Mm.
looked good in ages. Like, why they still? I get why they're still there because of injuries, and it's a new
Yeah,
coach. He's just trying to see if he can make a square peg fitting around a hole. But they're just shit. They're just not good players. That's the problem. Or they should be kept as reserves. So I don't know. It's a very Spurs esque way of getting through the season. I think so far.
yeah. I don't think you're saying about opening the purse strings. I don't think Conte's there for the next time they do. I think by next
Mhm.
transfer window, he seems like he's already
Or
prepped the exit.
yeah, he's
So he's
he's
out.
happy to leave at any point when he's
Yeah,
happy. He showed us before. He's won titles and gotten exactly what he wants. But when he doesn't work out, he's ready to
to
walk
go.
at any moment.
All right, let's get through Arsenal. Arsenal, they mount a late comeback win against Wolves, 2-1. Probably the sort of game that Arsenal don't come back to win last season at all,
100%.
especially after going down the way that they did with the super clumsy first goal.
Mm,
Essentially like a back pass, just not calculated well. Wolves also created a bunch of chances in the first half, like just pelted them with shots. Jimenez had a few that he missed. They probably wouldn't have missed in his heyday. They probably could have seen the game off, to be honest, but they just let it slide by him. And then Arsenal sort of worked themselves back into the game, and a beautiful turn and finish from Nicolas Pepe. And then which was also late to actually mention. It was I think it was the 81st minute that they scored that.
mm,
So they fought
mm,
all the way to the end, and then even later than that, at the 95th minute, you had Lacazette winning it. Absolute scenes. It's good to see them sort of be able to turn the corner and become a bit more of a much more, sorry, I should say, a much more consistent club than they were last season.
mm,
And also just they've gone from, oh, it's experimental, a bunch of youngsters, it's just clicking at this time, God knows what's going to happen tomorrow. Now it's you can sort of expect a certain level from them.
mm,
Even if they go down cheaply as they do, they don't lose their heads like they used to.
mm.
Um, so yeah, good win for Arsenal. I'm sure they're very happy with that one. And now they're still breathing down Man United's neck, only a point behind them and in fifth. So what do you reckon? Do they catch them before the end of the
Hey, I
season?
made the prediction. I made the prediction last episode. So I
Mhm.
think, look, it's going to be a tight race to the end. You've got again West Ham. They're stuttering at the moment a little bit. They're lacking a little bit of drive going forward and some goal scoring. But look, if Arsenal can continue fighting back and showing this amount of effort, they will show some reward.
Yeah,
So hopefully, they can at least finish in the four, which would be good for them, especially the youngsters, because like Emil Smith Rowe and Saka and even some of the other acquisitions like Tomiyasu, I think they've really just even Ben White, which is surprising to think they've really slid in and shown some a bit of guts and added some guts at
for sure.
times, not consistently, but they've shown guts, which takes to win some of these games like this one and mount late comebacks. So yeah, no, I'm happy for them, happy for Arteta, and
Mm.
happy for an old club like Arsenal.
Let's cover the Champions League real quickly. We have Chelsea versus Lille. Straightforward stuff for Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't see a whole lot of threat from Lille, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what do you think?
Ronaldo, Paul Ronaldo Sanchez was just looking around, going, "Is anyone else going to help me? Like, is anyone
Yeah.
else going to like chip in, or am I just going to have to try one man army this?" But look,
Hey,
it's
good
sad.
week for him, but Javi Martinez said he had a big tool, so there's that
Yeah,
for
yeah,
him.
the big week, big tool,
Yeah.
big job. That was one of the weirder things to come out. Like, yeah, I don't usually look around the locker room, but man, he's got a big one. He's
Hang
yeah,
on.
he's packing. He's packing.
Yeah.
But
You can't even if you try not to look, you can't. It's just
you
it'll
go.
always invade your field of view. That's how large it is.
Wow, that's crazy. But yeah, no, it was pretty. Look, good for Chelsea. I think they needed a game like this where it was a bit cruisy and they didn't have to really, not really a training run. That's a bit of an insult, but more so
Mm.
just to kind of run through the gears and get a W without any sort of controversy or questions around Lukaku. I mean, Havertz continues he's had some good performances in the Champions League this year. Obviously, not in the statistical way, but he's looked good and he's looked positive. He's always trying, which I find always an endearing trait for a player that's expensive but hasn't really shown much on paper in terms of goals and assists. So
Hmm.
good for him. Good goal as well. 7 minutes in, nice memoriam to Lukaku's 7 touches versus Palace. But yeah, comfortable. I think they should see it out again in the return fixture. Should be pretty straightforward for them there. Juve Villarreal in the next game. In Villarreal. Dusan Vlahovic, really
Killing it.
saying hello to the Champions League in 30 seconds. Great finish. Great ball over the top from I think it might have been Rabiot or Weston McKennie. Um,
I think it was
yeah,
Weston
great
McKennie.
ball. I think it was Weston McKennie. Yeah, gets the ball over the top. A lovely touch. That goes to show you what a bit of form does. Because like, if a player was, if he had the like, let's say the likes of Lukaku, he probably would have botched that, or like overthought it. Try to bring down the ball as still as
Yeah.
possible, and then
Not
you know,
trusting the instincts.
yeah. That was pure. You can see it purely instinctual because he brings the ball down, makes it all one fluid turn, brings the ball
Doesn't
down,
look at the goal once.
doesn't look at. He's just focusing on where the ball is and where he's going to put it, and then it's a very nice looking technical goal where he brings it
Yeah.
down lovely, squares it across the keeper, where he can't even reach it, and it's a great goal.
Mm.
And so far looking the goods with his big money move, and we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes. Because
What's his comp for you? Because I just from that one game and
Mhm.
the skill set he showed, he's got a little bit of a Lewandowski look to him.
Yeah, I feel like he's a good poacher. I think what separates him is his big frame as well. He doesn't look like obviously muscular, but he can
He's
definitely throw
big.
around his
Yeah.
weight. But I think he's finishing and the various types of goals he can score is definitely something that um, separates him from some of the other strikers in his age bracket and in the league in the world.
And then a tidy goal from Parejo to draw it.
Mm. Oh, great
Um,
running behind. Rabiot was way asleep.
yeah, Villarreal, man, they're just a competent bunch. That's all you can
Mhm,
say about it. You know what I
mhm,
mean? Like they're just one of those teams where, at least from what I've seen of recent time, they never beat themselves. You got to
mm,
beat them. They don't
mm,
give anything away easy.
mm,
And they got back into this, and they've made it, a difficult game for Juve because Juve's got to go play at their stadium now, and
mhm,
their place is ruckus. So
mm,
yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they can see them off because Juve, trying to get something out of this season.
mhm, mhm. Speaking of someone trying to get something out of this season, United and Atletico.
Yeah,
Probably the pick of the round. Athletic, it's the same story. Simeone, he's been. I think his game plan's been caught out. Um, you know, they'll take the lead and then they'll just make you. They'll fight you for the rest of the 90 minutes. There, foul you, take you out. Make it an uncomfortable time, and then
even
you'll get
even
eventually a counter.
even because like this, the first half for Atletico,
Mm.
they were just storming Man United, just
Mhm.
storming them. I just
Mhm.
I don't see how any coach in the world sees their team playing that well and decides they have to change anything. Like, what do you change, bro? What else do you want to see? Like,
Mhm.
isn't that like what did you draw up? Like, that's exactly what you'd want. They're
Mhm.
creating chances left, right, and center, not conceding a counter attack, not conceding so much as a genuine chance in the first half,
Mm.
while also on the other end creating constantly and being a consistent threat.
Mm.
I made no sense to me. Like, it makes sense, obviously, given the coach's history and how he's approached games in the Champions League before. But in the one isolated event, it makes no sense to me why he wants to make any changes there. And then
Mm.
to go, full commit to it in the 75th minute and literally take off your two best players, like it was wild to me.
Yeah, I think Simeone's trouble's always been substitutes. I think if they should have, if while it was still 1-0 up, just change the players that look tired. That's it. If you looked at Herrera, he looked a bit tired.
Yeah,
Replace him, get more legs in, get like for like subs in, so we keep the momentum going because they were all over United. They
all
literally
over him.
Pogba lost the ball a gazillion times just because he was too slow. He literally get
Fernandez,
Fernandez as
everyone.
well. They
Ronaldo didn't touch it. Like, it was
yeah,
going
literally.
perfectly.
Yeah, Hernan Lodi was great on the left side, but I think they literally beat themselves. And look, credit to United, they have to. You have to be in it to at least get a point. And they were up. They were all the way in it. Great goal from Malanga. Really took his one chance well. But yeah, it's just I think Atleti would take this as a loss. I think that's the only way you can take it because yeah, okay, 1-1, you still have another leg, but that should have been easily a 2-0, 2-1, even a 3-1. Like they should have just put them to the sword.
They should have put him to the sword. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Like, it was one of those games where you have to look back at it and say we could have taken it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? We
100%.
could have taken it, and it was our own decision to not. It wasn't that there was a period of time where in which you know Atleti's playing the same way, and then United start to turn things around, and that they're starting to storm the gates, and Simeone's
Mm,
like, "Oh, hold on, something's working for them now. I need to make an adjustment." No, no, things were going perfectly for Atletico, and then he
mm,
decides to tinker with it, to conserve a 1-0, a slim lead in a
mhm,
play. There's no more away goals, bro. You know what I
mm.
mean? Like,
And you're at home.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, a 1-0 lead at home is slim. It's not
Mm,
like it was before, where you take a 1-0 lead into your away fixture. That's great because you score one goal, now you're three up practically.
mm,
Whereas now one goal is just one goal, as it is anywhere else. It's
mhm,
bizarre to me that
mm,
they shot themselves in the foot like that. The way in which they conceded the goal was typical capitulation for Atleti. It was a counter attack, where they lost the ball high up the field, and Jimenez just loses his head and charges out from the deep center back position,
mm.
um, leaving both his left center back and right center back completely exposed. And then what's his name? The
Reynildo,
Brazil,
Reyn,
yeah,
Reynaldo.
Ronaldo. He overcommits to a tackle, probably assuming that Jimenez is still behind him because he's
Mm,
been behind him literally the whole game, right? He overcommits to a tackle, and then they end up one on one with Oblak, who he probably could have done a little bit better. But at the end of the day, he's one on one. What can you
mhm.
expect from him? So yeah, just like you said, they're taking this one as a loss because that's how it feels.
Yeah,
Benfica versus Ajax.
round them out 2-2. I think another game where the team that looked better kind of let it slip. Granted, Harley had an own goal. Not really much you can do about it, especially when it's fizzed across and you're right in front of your goal line and he just deflects off your boot. Harley can't be too upset about that. But
Mm,
I think the way they were attacking Ajax, they really were slicing right through Benfica at times. Anthony, sorry, was so good. Tadic was really good as well.
mm,
Harley got on the scoreboard as well and it was a threat. I think if he was a little bit more clinical, it would have been a different outcome.
Yeah.
But look, credit to Benfica. I mean, they still got two goals away. They take a tie 2-2 to Amsterdam. If they play like this, I think Ajax doesn't let them off lightly. I think they'll get thrashed 3-1 or something like that. But yeah, another one where the better team, didn't win the game, and where they should have. Really, I think they really should have just put him to the sword, because it was literally a lot of one-way traffic from Ajax, especially down that right side with Anthony Mazraoui, and
Yeah.
Hale in the middle. I
They
think Tadic on the wide, when it was the crosses were whipped in, he was just open. You can see in the first goal, he was just standing by himself a lot of the
I'm
time.
not I respect what Ajax has done this season. Tremendous results, dominating their league, yada
Mm,
yada yada.
group as
But
well.
I feel like it's like they piss it all away if they don't get out of the round of 16. Because
Yeah.
you can't be selling me like, oh, that I get it, they're in Holland, but they're just doing so well that they have to be comparable to the best in the top leagues elsewhere.
Mm,
I don't like they're playing against Benfica, who are struggling, right?
mm,
We saw what the best in the EPL does against the best in Portugal
mm,
already. 5-0, 6-0 at a
mm,
trot. You know what I
mm.
mean? I'm not saying they need to wash Benfica away, but they need to beat this team over two legs. If they don't
Yeah.
beat this team over two legs decisively, then
Mm,
it just goes to show you like you can pull off some great results in these sort of off leagues, but you really have to look at the competition they're going up against and the
mm,
level of domination that club has over the league. You know what I
mm,
mean?
mm.
Every single club in Holland is a feeder club to Ajax.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I
Mm.
respect the results they've got and all that sort of stuff, but we need to get off Ten Hag's dick. Like it's just, I don't understand. Like I get it, but show us then. You're up against good
Yeah.
competition,
Yeah. I
right?
think
Let's see you beat a team. You know,
yeah, I
Ajax have about 4 or 5 squads worth of youth players.
yeah,
They
very
could
true.
they can field Benfica's team for them and have reserves
Mm,
for themselves. That's
mm,
why it's like they're an overpowered force. They're a big fish in a small lake. You know what
mm.
I mean?
And
That's
very
why
much
I want to see
romanticized.
exactly very much romanticized. So let's see what they do. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like
mm, mm. I
let's see
think
what they do in Europe.
Yeah, I think, look, it'll be a shame if they lose, and don't get to the quarterfinals after this, just because they beat Dortmund, Sporting, in their group, and went clean 6-0 in the group. So it'd be a shame to waste all that and get the
Yeah.
record and stuff like that, just to lose
Yep.
to Benfica, who's worse than Sporting in their own league, and Dortmund just lost to Rangers in the
Yeah.
Europa League round of 32. So yeah, I agree. I think the romanticism of Ajax itself is a bigger issue,
Yep.
just because, again, small club syndrome. They're not they were once perennial things, but now they're just a feeder club, and the Cruyff and the Reins Michaels stories as well. It's just a lot of romance that tends to kind of mask over some of the harsher realities of the club, and
Hmm.
that big run as well, in the semi-finals all those
Yeah.
years. The best team ever Ajax ever had, um, probably since the heyday. So I see your point. I see your point. I think
Yeah.
shut up or shut up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like no one really makes the argument for PSG because of the dominance they have in
Mm,
France. You know what I mean? And
mm,
why not? Because everyone goes, "Well, you dominate the league. You've got the most money there." Like it's
mm,
no one cares. It's no one goes around saying, "Oh, look at Bayern winning 10 titles in a row in
mm,
Bundesliga. Oh, wow, they're the best club ever because they've done that." No, they're the best club ever because they've done that, and then they've replicated it in the toughest competition in the world.
mm,
That's
mm,
that's the proof in the pudding. You know what I mean? Where when you've got all the chips stacked in your favor, right? You've got the refs in your back pocket. Every club's a feeder to your club. You're the richest one. You're the strongest fan base. You've got all those things ticked. I don't care how many titles you win at that point because you should be winning them.
mm,
That's kind of how I feel about Ajax. Like I don't really care. Like how many years have they had great squads over the last 10 years, but they've when's the last time they had a good run outside of that miracle run where in which they then sold 10 players of their squad right after? Like there
mm,
just really hasn't been one.
mm.
So
Hey,
yeah,
but they look sharp in those Bob Marley kits, but
great kids, great kids. Fuck, I'm so glad they let them play with those. They're
mm,
terrific kids. Alrighty, look, let's wrap it up there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Follow us on the socials at Last Goal Wins Podcast on Facebook, at Last Goal Wins Pod on Twitter, at LastGoInsPod _ on Instagram. All glory be to Bozza.
Wow.
Cool.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.